I have a project that I want to work on today. I started working on it. It is this beaded bracelet right here. And what that is what's called rosary style links, because it's often used to make rosaries. I'm going to be working with 18 gauge gunmetal wire. Now it says gunmetal, and usually gunmetal is a little bit more of a silver color. This is antique brass, and if you look, you can hardly tell. This is a little bit more yellow or gold colored. This is a little bit more green, I guess. But I'm working with gunmetal. 18 gauge, the G on there, that just means how thick the wire is. And it's kind of strange, but the higher the number, the thinner the wire is. See if you can see that right there. So 20 gauge brass is actually thinner than 18 gauge brass. So 16 gauge would be thicker than this, and 22 gauge would be thinner than this. Now I find, for me, for doing this kind of wire work, beading, like for rosaries or whatever, I find that 18 or 20 gauge works best. You can probably get away with 22 gauge if you're wrapping the links like this. You see how that's kind of wrapped and twisted around each bead. It's looped and then twisted around each end. That makes it a little bit stronger. But if your wire is too thin, in my experience anyway, if it's thinner than 20 gauge, it's really hard to work with. And anything thicker than 18 gauge, and you might not be able to get it through the hole in the middle of the beads. See that, like that barely, that might not even work on those beads. Oh, there, it worked on that one. Yeah. So see, you're kind of pushing the upper end here. I might have to get a different bead. That one won't work. The hole is a little bit too small. But yeah, see, if you start getting thicker wire, then you've got to make sure that your holes are big enough, because see, it's eating it up right there. I'll have to cut that part off. This is one of those things I like to do. I like to make these beaded bracelets that are kind of an eclectic collection of lots of different beads. So I find beads that sort of match in color tone. So like these are going to be dark green, beige, and kind of a gray color. Some of these are glass, some are ceramic, and some are stone. This is a stone bead. This is a stone centerpiece bead. This is glass. This is glass. This is ceramic. And then I lay them out on my bead board, and one that kind of gives me an idea of how long it's going to be, because you can see the inch marks around the edge. But it also kind of gives me an idea of what the bracelet will look like when it's finished. So I can see if I like the way the color pattern kind of is laid out here. So I was picking beads that sort of complemented. I started with this bead here for the middle, and then I wanted to pick beads that sort of complemented the colors that were in this one. A lot of people try to bend wire using the tips of these pliers. See, I've got very specially shaped pliers. They taper down to the end and they're round, and they don't have teeth. I mean, they've got these little grooves here for some grip, but they don't have teeth. And one, if you try to use pliers that have teeth, you're going to chew up your wire. But two, you need to have these tapered kind of pliers if you're going to do this sort of wire work, because you want to be able to bend it around the tip of the pliers. Now, you don't want to you're not using this end of the pliers to bend your wire like this, because that'll actually be really hard to do and you'll get real frustrated. I've seen it happen many times when I've tried to teach these techniques in classes and stuff, and people try to use the pliers. For some reason, people want to use the tip like it's a pencil. You know, you think of like, oh, well, when you have a pencil, you want to write with it, you just use the tip. But in wire work, you want to use the whole plier, and that's because your loop is going to be as big as where you use the pliers to make it. So if I wanted a really big loop, I would hold the wire down here. If I want a really small loop, I'm going to hold it up here, because, you know, the diameter will change as you go up and down the pliers. And that's what you want to do, is you want to hold the wire and bend it around the pliers, not bend the wire with the pliers. And the other thing that can be challenging is if you're making something with a whole bunch of links, you know, making all of the links about the same size, even on the same bead, sometimes it's difficult to get the same size on both sides, and that just comes with practice. Don't be afraid. Like anything in life, any kind of art or craft or playing a video game or anything else, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. If you make a mistake with the wire, you just cut it off and start over again. Now I'm going to cut this. See, I can cut it with the little cutters in the center there. All right, and I'm cutting it this direction so that, because when you cut, you end up with this little bit of a tapered point. I don't even know if you can see that. There's a slight tapered point from the blades coming together, and I want that going the right direction. Right, so this one is bent that way. You see the loop bends back and comes around. So I'm going to do this side the opposite direction. I'm going to bend it this way. And then I'm taking my wire, and remember, I want to hold it. I don't want to hold it by the tip of the pliers. I want to hold it down here because that's the size of the loop that I'm making. That's the diameter of the loop that I'm making. And I'm bending it around the pliers. See, and even on this, they're not quite exactly the same size. But the thing is they're close enough. They're close enough that by the time we get them all linked together, you won't even notice that they're not exactly the same size. I have these. These are nylon. And these are wire straighteners, is what this is. So if your wire is slightly bent, you just run it through this, and it won't chew up your wire, and it'll straighten your wire. That's what I'm using here, in case anyone's wondering. When you're opening up a loop or a jump ring, you don't want to open it this way. You want to open it this way. It keeps it from weakening the metal, and it keeps the loop nice and tight. So see, I'm not opening it up like this. I'm holding it right here, and I'm bending it up just a little bit that way. And then I'm bending it back shut again. I'm going to go ahead and start putting it together and just make sure I have enough beads. And if I need to do more beads, then I will. But let's see if we can find, I gotta find a clasp of some kind. We could make a clasp. It's possible to make a clasp or a hook with wire. You basically just make a loop like that. And then I was saying earlier that when you want to make a bigger loop, you move further down on your pliers. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make a letter S. So say this is like the start of the S. You're going to come around and make the bottom here. But we're going to make it bigger. So like that. So now you kind of have like this lopsided infinity symbol. See if I can get it into the camera there. There we go. Then to finish it off, now you can use the tip of your pliers to make a little tiny bend like that. And now you have a hook. And if you want to, you can get out the old anvil and bash it a little bit to flatten it and kind of temper the metal and make it stronger. And this is the part that would get attached to the bracelet right here. And then this is the part that you would want to hook through an eye. And if you want to make an eye, you're going to go here. All right, again, like we started the hook. But you're going to make it look like a little balloon on a string. You're going to give it a little space. And you're going to bend it like that. And go down here to the big part of your pliers. So you can make a big loop. Right. Now I'm going to take my nylon so I don't rip up the wire. And I'm going to wrap it around. So you're going to end up with something that kind of looks like that. And again, if you want to, and you have a little anvil, you know, you can put it on there and you can hammer it so that it gets a little bit flattened and a little bit stronger. But that's it. And then this is the part that would attach to the other side of the bracelet. And you would have, or necklace, and you would have a clasp.